Trevor, what do you think about eating before workouts?
It depends on the person. I
Yeah, that was my
definitely,
answer too.
I definitely like to eat a little something before I exercise. Also depends on what time of the day I'm exercising. So,
Yeah,
short answer, it
I
depends.
it does depend. I think that's the best answer because I was thinking that too. I get asked that a lot, especially from my 5 a.m., 6 a.m. people. Do you work out before? What do you need to eat? How often before? I'm just like, hey,
hmm
it all depends. Some people, they need like eggs, peanut butter toast, and a big thing of oatmeal. And other people are like, if I eat or even smell food, I'm gonna throw up. It really
Yeah.
just depends. I'm the type of person where I need a simple sugar, and here's why. I do either honestly half a banana or like a third of an apple, just because it's unprocessed foods, it's natural sugars, and it's gonna give me a little energy. So I drink
hmm
about 12 to 16 ounces of water and then eat like half an apple or half a banana just to have something in my system. But if it's too much, I start to feel it.
hmm Yeah, I think I'm the same way. I mean, it depends on again when I'm exercising and what I'm doing. If I'm doing like just barbell, like just some strength stuff, some
That's
back
a good point.
squats or deadlifts, I know that I don't really need any type of food to help me get going. But what I usually do is I'll eat a banana in the morning because I'll train before I go to work. So I usually eat a banana. If it's later in the day, about 45 minutes before, I usually eat some fruit and a little bit of protein. But that's pretty much it.
Trevor, what do you think about creatine?
It's a must.
A must.
Creatine is the most researched and proven supplement on the market. It is a supplement that, long story short, helps your muscles produce more ATP to have a
Produce power.
stronger
Yeah.
output. Yes. And so it just helps you put more into the performance from a power output, from a muscular performance standpoint. And that people often just think strength when you think of creatine or like a strength type training. But if you have anything to do with like output, short or long
Right.
burst, and
Right.
the muscles have to perform, creatine is just a super valuable supplement. Again, it's the most researched. So if you're a runner, if you're a swimmer, if you're a lifter, Olympic or power lifter, if you do CrossFit, if you do anything with weights, I think you should be on creatine.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. If you have any kind of performance aspirations or kind of strength, aesthetic type aspirations, you should be on creatine. I got
Which
that
is
question.
nearly every single person.
Yeah. I
Maybe not
mean,
the performance piece, but
I mean,
the
there
aesthetic
might
piece.
be a selected group of people that just do more like body flow, yoga type mobility work that but even still whether you're taking creatine or not, you still need to have some sort of strength component to it.
Right.
So I'm a fan. I mean, I remember my life before creatine, BC and
Dude, you were
AC.
small.
People look at pictures, they're like, Alex, you look like a child, and then you
Yeah.
don't. You look less of a child.
You know,
So
it's crazy though. You were still arguably, you still slinging the 10. We talked about slinging the 10 about a
slinging the
month or
10.
two ago.
I
You,
mean,
you were still slinging it, but
it definitely it
you were thinner.
here's what I'll say though. Could I? Yes, but was it harder? Yes.
Yeah.
I'll put up weight now. I'm like, wow. I remember when that was a struggle, and I am hitting it easier. And I do think it's yes,
For context, he's talking
historically.
about the 185-pound barbell instead of the 135 bell.
Anyways, I'm a fan of
Alex, I've got a
creatine.
question for you. But to wrap that up, I think you should try creatine. If you almost all of the large supplement companies make some sort of creatine. The creatine that I would encourage a creatine monohydrate.
Right.
It's just kind of formulated and crafted in the best way that your body absorbs and uses the creatine. That could be a capsule. Alex uses the capsule sometimes, and then there's a powder version. I like the powder. I know he uses that from time to time as well.
I have the powder
So
now, but Trevor, what do you
is
think
that
really quick though about the person who is not an exerciser? They just do movement. They just play pickleball and take walks, which is great. That's habit number 3, move often. Should they be taking creatine?
I don't think that's the biggest needle mover.
I agree.
I don't think that's the biggest needle mover for virtually anybody.
Yeah.
It's the top of the pyramid, the
Yes.
5% of the 100, and the reason we suggest creatine is more performance if we have an aesthetic goal
Yes.
and we are doing some sort of exercise
Yes. I'd agree.
consistently. And now pickleball is phenomenal. I love pickleball. I love playing tennis. I love playing spike ball. And I consider that movement,
Yes.
but it's not exercise.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is because it's not planned, structured, and repetitive.
Right.
Right. And that's what we would, kind of delineate what is exercise. Planned, structures, repetitive movement that you do on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
You are like exerting energy. Your heart rate's getting up when you're playing pickleball. It's a phenomenal way to move your body, walking, all of these different aspects of movement, but it's just not exercise per se. And so if we're not like, quote, an exerciser, if we play pickleball, play tennis, etc., and we, you like to walk to get some movement in outside of that, I probably wouldn't go towards creatine. I would really just focus on whole, clean, real foods and incorporating more of those into
Yes.
the daily and weekly rhythms rather than,
Yes.
I need this supplement to
There's
help me reach my
bigger
goals.
needle movers when it comes to that piece. But for example, I was just talking to someone who has all the other pieces in place. Like we say, the pyramid, they're sleeping well, they're eating clean, they're getting their steps, they're working out 6 days a week, and they're not taking creatine. Yeah, I would suggest that because that's the top of the pyramid. But for someone who doesn't necessarily have the bottom of the pyramid in check or in stone, let's focus on those first, and then we can get to the creatine.
And for context, I probably started taking creatine a little over a year ago.
Yeah,
year and a half ago.
Yeah, mine was the same. Probably about a year and a half, 2
And
years
I've been exercising and working out for 9 years. So
same.
I wish I started sooner. But here we are. Alex, I got a question for you.
Are you not even going to welcome the listeners to?
Dude, we're already like 5 minutes into this thing. They've been welcome.
I'll welcome you.
They've
Hey
been
guys,
here.
thanks for tuning in.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. It's minute 7, and we're going to keep rolling. Oh, it's a great day to be alive. Alex, as we are approaching the holiday season, what's your favorite holiday tradition?
So, Thanksgiving was last week when this episode airs, and I grew up with a family tradition of getting a real tree every year, and it was always the day after Thanksgiving. On that Friday, our family would go to a Christmas tree farm and cut it down, and it was just fun. And what we would do is we would cut it down, we'd bring it home, we'd put up all the decorations and pretty much set up for Christmas. So it was almost like a family inauguration of like Christmas is officially starting. There's no shame on if someone sets their Christmas tree up in November 1st or December 1st. So our family tradition was always the day after Thanksgiving. So I'm going to try to continue that with my family. What about you?
Ours is since being married, the Deals Christmas party. That's my favorite tradition as of late.
I've had the pleasure and privilege of being invited to the Deals Christmas party in 2022, and it was a treat. I'll just say that it was a treat.
You're also invited this year, but you're just not able to make it.
I know. I'm really bummed.
I don't want the listeners to think that last year you invited and then this year you're not invited. You are one of my closer friends.
I appreciate the invite. I am bummed we can't make it, but we'll be there in future years.
You'll miss Santa, but that's okay. He'll still come to your house.
Santa does make an appearance.
So we got a good lineup. We're talking about the 3 and 30 as we usually do. Alex sent this out on a holiday, which is kind of crazy, but he got it out. We're going to go ahead and share the screen, Alex. We're just going to dive in on these like we have, and I'm excited. You shared a good one. Maybe it's because you knew it was Thanksgiving and you just kind of had to step up your game. But the first one, the first point that you shared, again, if you're listening to this episode aired just after Thanksgiving, November 23rd is when this edition of the 3 and 30 came out. We're sharing the screen. If you are watching, if you're listening, we're just going to read it. And if you want to go back, you can see these on our website. Go to holohealth.com, go to resources, click newsletter, and you can find this edition. Alex, first point, it says, stillness before God transforms us into unhurried love. Walk me through this one a little bit.
This came from a podcast I was listening to from Practicing the Way. If you don't know Practicing the Way, they're a nonprofit that provides digital resources for spiritual formation to integrate it into the life of the church. And this practice was over silence and solitude. And this was not John Mark Comer, but he was in the conversation. It was with another guy, and he said, yeah, stillness before God transforms me into unhurried love. And now, live while we're recording this, I just realized, man, I needed to quote him. I forgot his name, and I didn't quote him, so I'm sorry. I'll quote you in the future. I don't even know his name, but he just said this. It was in a conversation. So I took a note of it because I have this long note list of like, man, I need to remember these things. But they were talking about how silence and solitude, how Jesus often withdrew to lonely places, and that was the place of formation. We don't change or are transformed into the image of God into the day-to-day busyness. It's in the quiet, slow, still mornings or evenings or whenever that is, wherever our desolate, isolated wilderness is, that God does a work in our hearts. So it just was talking about how then and only then is when God can actually do a work in us, not when we're preoccupied or busy or doing other things, distracted. So
I would kind of push back on that, Alex. I think the Lord can use the moments in the day to day. Here's where I'd almost edit what they were sharing, and I understand the perspective, but we never come to this place of understanding of what He's doing in the day to day until we remove ourselves from the hurry, and we're able to process what He's been doing this week at work. He's been doing these things, opening these doors, presenting me with these conversations, and He's changing my heart and shifting my posture towards my friends at work, my coworkers, the clients that we get to engage in, whatever it might be, right? People at the gym. But if we don't put ourselves in a place of stillness before the Lord, we are not able to be transformed by the Holy Spirit regarding those things, or maybe even those brought to front of mind because there is so much hurry. So I think we can be transformed inside of the hurry or the day to day. I don't really like hurry there, but just like the constant movement of the day. But we're never going to see the completion of that transformation. Would you agree with that?
yeah, I would argue, not argue, I would agree that this line is not exhaustive, that there are other ways that God transforms us. I would just say that one of the best ways is stillness before God.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We talk about in God's design for the mind is to see transformation through the renewal of our mind.
Right. Romans 12.
We can't renew our mind in the middle of the hurry,
Right.
and the day to day,
Right.
and the emails, and the driving, and the to-do list. And that's totally okay. There's no shame that we can't do that. That's just part of what life looks like. And God understands that, but He invites us into the discipline and the practice of creating small moments. And you see it with Jesus. Jesus didn't avoid the busyness, right? He was in the middle of all of these things going on. He's healing. He's proclaiming the gospel. He is sharing the good news. He's saying who He is. He's saying, hey, Pharisees, Sadducees, like pull the log out of your own eye, please, so that you can see what's going on. And then after all of this stuff, as you can imagine, it's a super, just what we would label as busy or just
full,
chaotic environment. Yeah, full environment. And then He withdraws Himself, right? To restore His soul, to renew His mind, to continue to be transformed. And I think what's important about this point, Alex, is that the gentleman who mentioned this and who said this statement is that he said unhurried love. And we had a quote in our house that I think came from the Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. We had it on our little letterboard. Is that hurry and love cannot coexist?
Yeah, they're incompatible.
They're incompatible, and I think it can. It just makes it way harder. It makes it way harder for it to be the same love that Jesus demonstrates for us to live that out in the same reflection when we are hurried.
I think they can coexist externally, but I don't think they can coexist internally in your heart and soul.
I was just about to say, so I think you can live in a what would be labeled as a hurried environment, but your soul be not hurried.
Yes, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, because our invitation from the Lord, with Sabbath, with prayer, with stillness before Him, with withdrawing to lonely places, to praying in quiet, isolate places. He's not saying that we have to live our lives like that. He doesn't want us to. I mean, He calls us to be a light before other people. You can't do that if you're praying in your bedroom all the time, right? And so, but what He realizes is it transforms our soul and our mind so that when we are in those places publicly or whatever it might be, we are changed through
Yes,
the Holy Spirit so that He may be known. And that's the transformation, the
yes,
spiritual formation, the sanctification that He is inviting us into, and that we
yes.
experience when we consistently are engaging with these rhythms with God.
I've heard that the battle is won or lost in these moments. It's not in the day to day, it's in the quiet stillness of the morning. And that's when the battle's won, because that is when our heart is transformed. And okay, you had confession the past 2 weeks, and I have confession this week. Is my confession is that I've started and picked back up writing book number 3. But I started writing book number 3 a while ago, and I was like, not right now. And I probably put it up for about 6 to 9 months.
And that's
And
okay, dude.
I picked it back up because I genuinely love it, and I'm really excited about this. But I was reading and researching and journaling about this just in context of this. But and this is the last point we'll say, then we'll move on to number 2, is stillness before
Mm-hmm.
God transforms us into unhurried love. In that stillness before God, that is when I reinforced my proper identity. And that is what changes me into unhurried love. And that kind of is going back into the direction we're heading with Whole Health, Trevor, in this book I'm writing, is the 3 steps to become truly healthy. Step number 1 is to understand who is God, that God is a perfect Father. And that informs step number 2 on who am I, on the proper identity, that I am a loved son or I'm a loved daughter of the perfect Father. And those identity pieces in the stillness and quiet of the morning are going to transform me. And my renewal of my mind, on setting my mind on the truth of who I am in Christ, my identity, that is what's going to transform me into unhurried love. But I'm setting the stage, I'm setting the table, I'm creating opportunities for the Holy Spirit to do a work in me so that God can transform me. So stay tuned.
Let us pray.
Let's pray.
Let's go. Point number 2 of the 3 and 30. Each macronutrient is important and has a distinct role in the body. Carbohydrates is fuel and function. This is the body's immediate energy source. There are 4 calories per gram. Protein, recovery and rebuild. This is the body's growth mechanism. There are 4 calories per gram. Fat, storage and support. This is the body's reserve system. There are 9 calories per gram. And then there is an asterisk at the bottom that says, while water and alcohol are not macronutrients, water has 0 calories per gram, alcohol has 7 calories per gram. It's a little bit of science, a little bit of nutritional sciences right
Just
here.
facts.
And it's kind of, yeah, it's just facts. I mean, it's kind of picking up what we talked about last week. There's macronutrients, there's micronutrients. Alex is writing about the macronutrients, the big 3 nutrient sources that our body needs daily, weekly, all the time. And it's carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Alex, what's your big takeaway from sharing this one point? What do you want someone to walk away with from this?
That each macronutrient is important and has a distinct role in the body.
Mm.
I mean,
Say it again. Say it again. Come on.
it literally is the first sentence. Each macronutrient
Yeah.
is important and has a distinct role in the body. I think the main point here is one of the pivotal breakthroughs when it comes to truly healthy life is learning the correct information, having a proper understanding and understanding truth. These are just facts. When I realize what foods are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, it is so second nature to me. But when I am building a plate and when I am eating out and when I am going grocery shopping, I'm not just looking at food items, I'm looking at macronutrient breakdowns. Like I'm looking at, hey, how much protein do I have on my plate? what type of carbohydrates am I eating recently? Have I had a lot of processed crumble cookie lately, or am I getting some apples and bananas? So this is just something that should become, I say should in a very healthy educational way, should become second nature to us as we just have our nutrition throughout the day. We should be thinking, okay, carbohydrates, proteins, and fat. What does my day look like? What does the demand in my day look like? And how do I need to supply my demand? What do I need to do differently? Is this a normal day? And just constantly managing that tension, because nutrition is a tension to manage. And these are our biggest levers. We want whole, clean, unprocessed carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So step number one is learning that each of them are important and each have a distinct role.
Yeah, I think that's a good point there, Alex. What I would share in this position from here, just to kind of, I'm thinking of someone listening. It's like, this is a lot, right? You're sharing what each of them are, what their purpose is, and then the calories. And I almost think a lot of people are going to get caught up in the calories.
Yeah.
And that's not the purpose of this point. This is simply informational. It doesn't matter that the calories are 4 per gram for carbs and proteins and 9 per gram for fat, or 7 calories per gram of alcohol. That doesn't matter. This is just information for you, right? It's just for you to be able to understand. And exactly what Alex said, getting these on a daily basis, it's important to learn things, but you don't have to track things. I think that's a common misconception, is if you want to make progress with your nutrition or with your weight, then you have to track. If you track stuff, you're going to probably do it a little bit more effectively or efficiently. But if that adds stress, if that's complicated, if it's not the right season of life to do that, if it has nothing to do with your goals, or if you just don't want to do it, you
Right.
don't have to track your calories to make progress. We're simply just sharing what those breakdowns and exactly what that looks like. If you want to take a look at nutrition, if you're reading this, you're like, that's the worst possible thing you could be talking about, as this episode airs right after Thanksgiving. We're happy to have a conversation with you. You can schedule a call with one of our whole health coaches, and they'll start a conversation about what's your goals and how we can help you get there,
Yeah.
and help you reach your health goals, but also continue to pursue a truly healthy life. And so nutrition coaching is part of our whole true health coaching that we can dive in a little bit further. But the takeaway here is that your body needs all three.
Yep.
If you follow an account, or if you hear someone share that one of these is not good, that you shouldn't have them, all of these different kind of veins of that quote or that language, proceed with caution. I wouldn't say write them off by any means, but just proceed with caution, because your body is designed to get carbs, proteins, and fats, and it needs it every single day.
Trevor, you wrapped up this point perfectly, because I was going to say that these are a part of God's design of health. And that's why these are important. God designed carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and for our bodies to eat the unprocessed versions of these.
And here's, just for context, for people that God's design of carbs is fruits and vegetables that we see that grow and occur naturally. God's design for protein are animals or plants, the sources of those animal plants that are protein that occur naturally. Okay, it could be different animals that get killed and used for protein, or it could be plants that are harvested and used for
Or
protein
eggs.
sources. Fats, nuts, eggs, nuts, seeds, all of these different type of things. Olive oil that's used to make all of these different things, right? They exist naturally. Olive oil is made, right? But all the other things God made naturally. They existed. You read scripture. What the heck did they eat? They ate all that stuff we just talked about. They weren't eating crumble cookie. They probably wish they had crumble cookie.
Yeah.
But there's a place for crumble. Just like this past week at Thanksgiving, you bet your bottom dollar I had some good sweets. It was my mom made some, right? I'm not going to say no to that. And that's a different conversation. And we help with so many different aspects of health, because health is more than just diet and exercise. But as we mentioned before, 2 big movers, and those are part of our specific personalized plan through True Health Coaching. That's all I'll say
Trevor,
there.
I want to ask one clarifying question on that we can move to number 3, because this is a question I get
Yeah.
a lot, and people have a hard time just having handles with it, is how do I practically balance the 80-20 principle? How do I, on Thanksgiving, know okay, yeah, it's okay to have a crumble cookie or this dessert or whatever, but how do I know when enough is enough or if it's okay or if I've had enough unprocessed foods? Like, what's going through your head when you actually do indulge in a sweet versus you say, no, I'm actually going to prioritize X, Y, Z. How do we do that? Do you like my chicken dance, like back and forth, like a little head, like,
Yeah, yeah,
ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
little beeping and
walla,
wobbing,
walla.
wobbing and beeping. Um, that's a great question, Alex. Here's what I would share: is one, you have to determine for yourself beforehand how you want to approach a specific holiday day or
Yeah,
meal. When it comes to Thanksgiving, comes to Christmas, comes to Easter, some of these bigger holidays, awesome events. I mean, so fun, so much joy. But food is a significant part of that. Parties are another example, could not be a holiday, but you have to determine going in there what season of life am I in, and what am I working towards? The next question would be, is having a plan and looking to stick to that plan going to add stress to the environment and to the day, or is it going to remove stress, right? Because for some people, if you have a plan going into that, it's going to stress you out that you're not perfectly adhering to that plan, or you maybe ate something that you didn't have planned
right.
or whatever, and you just get overwhelmed. And then some people, it's the opposite. So you've got to look at and establish, okay, what do I want to do? For most people, and myself, for example, I'm not going to approach the Thanksgiving meal with the same intention or the same purpose I do most every other meal, which is whole, clean, real foods. And I look to minimize sweets. I personally eat a couple sweets a week. That's it. But I'll probably enjoy an extra serving of most foods on Thanksgiving and more sweets than I typically would. And personally, it's because my family spent the time to make that, and I want to enjoy that food because one, it's a way to love them, but that doesn't mean I have to just eat until I can't breathe. For me, practically, I'm going to approach Thanksgiving, or I approached Thanksgiving this past week in this way. I go into the day and I move my body early because I can, because it allows me to have a clear mind and a full
And
heart,
steward your
and
body
I've done
well.
something for my health, yes, so that I can then go into the environment with my family and love them and just spend super quality
Wait,
time with
Trevor, it's not
them,
a
and not
punishment because you're about to go eat a bunch of fatty
no,
food?
no,
Oh,
not at all. And I don't move early so that I can do that. I move early because I
I get
know
you.
we're going to sit and watch football, and we're going to hang out at the house, and we're just going to be
Yeah,
together. I don't want to be thinking about the entire time. I got to get away and get some steps or get my workout in. And that's why I do it. That's why I move it early. It's not so that I can eat more. For the record, you're not really burning that many calories when you work out. I hate to tell you. It's just not worth it from a math
yeah.
equation standpoint. But I moved my body early. And then as I approached the Thanksgiving meal, I got protein and a vegetable, and I ate that first. So I'm getting my
Yes, yes.
macronutrients and micronutrients in first. From there, I enjoyed mac and cheese that we always have, beautiful rolls that we always have. My Mima and Pop made these sweet butter beans. Oh my goodness, they're incredible. Probably had at least two large bowls of that. And then I had pie, and then I had some cookies. That's a little bit more than I typically would, and that's totally okay. I didn't feel any guilt about it. I enjoyed it. And so if you're going into, and Thanksgiving's already passed, but as we approach the Christmas holiday season, go into an environment knowing what you're going to do. Okay. My encouragement would be to prioritize micronutrients and then leave room for other things on the plate. Eat the proteins and the veggies first, or the proteins and the fruit. And what's going to probably happen is you're going to be a little more full from that. And so you're not going to overeat on the sweets. And if the reverse happened, right? If you eat a bunch of sweets and then you're like, oh, I'll eat my protein and veggie then, you're not as likely to get all of those
Right.
foods in. So it's kind of reverse engineering. There's a lot of different strategies that we can approach the holiday season or parties or social events with. Again, that's part of our coaching abilities of a coach, just to be able to sit down with the client and say, hey, I know we got this going on this weekend. How do we want to approach it? I have some thoughts, but are you trying to stay fully on the plan? Do we want to make a personalized plan specific for this event, or do we want to take a break? So long story or long answer to your question, but hopefully that's helpful for some people.
That's good. Let's go to number 3.
Cool. Number 3. A recent study found that the average person touches their phone 2,617 times a day. 2,617. Youth and teenagers were close to 10,000 times a day. Here's a question to ponder. What would my life look like if God touched my mind as frequently as I touch my phone? Truly healthy people pay attention to their attention. Alex, obviously this inspired you, or something inspired you to write this one. What was it?
This study came out in 2019, and at the date of this recording, it's 2023. Might be listening in 2024. That's, what is that, 4 or 5 years ago? That I can't imagine that this stat is going down anytime soon.
It's probably only
gone up, especially with youth and teenagers. So the main point here is the question, what would it look like if God touched my mind as frequently as I touched my phone? And I know that's not practically like doable. Obviously, like our phone is such an integral piece to just work and life. But the main point is, what am I giving my attention to? How distracted is this world pulling me away from who God is trying to form me and morph me? Because to be honest, whatever I give my attention to shapes who I become. And I think the more important question to what do you do is, who are you becoming? That in the 10, 15, 20, 30-year version of yourself down the road, the question is, who are you becoming? Are you satisfied? Are you becoming more into the image of God on the path you are now? Or are we being distracted down a different way? And it really starts with paying attention to our attention, the awareness of how often this digital appendage is veering our attention sideways. So there really wasn't like a big point behind it, rather than, hey, we need to pay attention to our attention. And what are some ways, especially in this holiday season, that we can take a step back, that we can pause, that we can put it up, that we can turn it off? And this is just the phone. This isn't even the iPad, Netflix, laptop, work, all the above, video games. But just the digital age it can wreak havoc on our souls. It doesn't have to, but that's why we 100% need big digital boundaries, because if not, the cultural undertow is too strong that it's just going to take us down a route where we're just addicted.
I saw a funny reel, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago, and it was a guy that said, I carried my Bible around the whole day instead of my phone, and like opened it and used it every single time I would my phone. It was so funny, awesome. Dude. I mean, he was like on the couch and he woke up from a nap on the couch and he like picked up his Bible and just started reading. It was so good. It just made me smile. It was supposed to be funny. It made me think of this quote, or this point from the 3 and 30 made me think of that. And I think here's what I would say, Alex, is question for you, trying to put myself, in the shoes of someone who's listening or who's working on this. How do you create digital boundaries? Where do I start with that?
Here's a couple. It's the same question of like, where do I start with exercise? How do I start moving? Or what? I mean, it's like, you just start. You just have to pick one. You don't try to tackle everything at once. You just try to pick one and do it. The thing that I like to tell people is start with 1 hour a day. I follow the 1-1-1 tip, 1 hour a day, 1 day a week, 1 week a year. That, for example, yesterday when we were, the date of this recording, yesterday was Sunday, and I didn't bring my phone to church. It was actually dead, and I didn't pick up my phone until, probably the afternoon, and then I probably picked it up twice yesterday because I intentionally put a digital boundary around that day. But I think the easiest thing is, okay, 1 hour a day, whether that's beginning hour and last hour, or right when you get home from work, right when you put work up from 5 to 6, you're going to put your phone up. The thing that I have found a lot of fruit from is the bookending my days. That the first hour from waking up, in the last hour from going to bed is it's no phones. Phones don't go in the bedroom, that I just charge it down in the kitchen, and that it gives my mind a space to breathe, and it gives my soul a chance to connect with God. Because I remember I was listening to John Mark Comer, and he advocates for this too. He's like, God deserves our first breath and our last breath. That when we are praying and we are focusing on him, we're giving him his breath back, and he deserves the first and the last. And I was like, that's a really good point. So I also like to put my phone away when I wait, whether I'm waiting for the gas, whether I'm waiting in the grocery line, whether I'm waiting for a coffee once a month with Trevor, whether I'm
It's like once every 3 months.
but I'll put my phone up when I wait. But it's just basically saying, okay, hey, I need to create space. Where are these pockets that I can create space that I don't need to be on, that I can just put it up and do it?
And I would bookend this point as we kind of, are looking to end the episode and closing out here, is there's no guilt or shame or pointed fingers for you or when you use your phone. The phone can be and is part of life, and it can be used in a truly healthy life. A truly healthy life is not one that the phone doesn't exist. But the reality is, just like point number 1 says, if we want to be someone who's transformed into unhurried love, the phone can't be our priority. It can't be attached to our hip. It's about paying attention to our
Yes.
attention. And even an even bigger thing from that is we talked about time in a couple episodes ago, and Alex wrote about people saying we don't have time. I mean, everybody gets that screen time report, right? Unless you use an Android, and I'm sure maybe you get some version of that too. But you get a screen time report, and I mean, even Alex and I'm sure I do. I'm hopefully Alex does as well. But you
I'm gonna
look
pull
at
mine up right
you
now.
look at the screen time, and you're like, well, yeah. I mean, it could have been a little bit lower X, Y, or Z, right? And that's okay. There's no reason to feel shame about that. But the reality is, the opportunity for us to do things for our health, to steward our health well, comes with maximizing our time. What are you showing?
18-minute daily average.
That's not true. That's for
Context.
That's for
It's
today.
8 a.m. in the morning, and I picked up my phone once, so it's a little skewed. But I picked it up. It said 18-minute daily average.
Yeah, you'd have to go back to last week, bro.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Anyways, the point here is that a really great way to see how you're spending your time is to look at that screen time, and then just to make an adjustment. Start small, just like Alex said, make an adjustment, whether it be to start the day, to end the day. And we're not removing something just for the sake of something. We're looking to add something that is going to steward your health well, give God the honor and the glory of how he is giving you the body, mind, or soul, and doing something that's going to just fill your cup instead of spending 2,617 times a day touching your phone.
Remember,
Unless you're under the age of 18.
remember, your phone is a tool. It's not
Tool.
immoral. It's amoral. Your phone is a tool. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And with any tool, we need parameters. We need intent. We need to use it carefully and on purpose. It's like a hammer. It's like money. It's
Mm-hmm.
like AI. These are tools. They don't have morality to them. It's our heart and our motivation and the how we use them. So the phone is just all pervading. It's ubiquitous. It's all consuming. That we just need to be intentional about it. So that's it. There's no guilt or shame.
That's it. No guilt or shame in a truly healthy life. Why? Because God's grace fills the
Amen.
gaps. That's called the true health paradox. If you don't know anything about it, you can check out Alex's second book, Health is Free. He talked about his third book. He's got two. If you don't just go to a third, so he already has two. The first is called The Holo State. The second is called Health is Freedom. You can see those on our website, or you just go to Amazon and type in The Holo State, Health is Freedom, Alex Cottingham, and they'll pull up. I feel pretty sure that they will, at least.
Thanks, Trevor. I appreciate that.
And yeah, you can support the man, the myth, the legend. Listen, listeners, we value your time and love getting to do this for you. Our goal is to continue to create resources to help you pursue God's design of health. That's it, plain and
Yep.
simple. Yes, to love the inner peace you feel and like how you look, but really to reshape how we're living our
Yes.
lives and stewarding our health so that God is known, He's glorified, He's loved by you, and then you can love other people better. Health is a means to an end.
Trevor, we're 1 week down of the True Health program hosting live up here in Cumming, Georgia. That at the date of this recording, when people are hearing, we might be 2 or 3 weeks down, but just for the listeners to know, we are hosting over 30 people in person and going through a 4-week short-term group on taking everything we're talking about and taking it to the next level. That there is short-form video content, there's small group discussions, there's guided movement and exercise sessions, there's fun icebreakers, there's some Q&A. We're actually sharing some other people that have gone through the program and gone through our coaching curriculum, and they're sharing a little bit. So if you want to learn more and want to participate in a digital version coming up in 2024, let us know. But just wanted to share that we're super excited about that. It's been awesome.
It's been great, and we're excited for what's to come and all the things that we're going to be bringing for you guys, listeners. As always, remember, you're a legend. We hope that this holiday season has been great, and if we can do anything to help, just reach out. And if you have not already, subscribe to the show. You can do that on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We've got content coming all the time. We're working nonstop. Not nonstop. 6 days a week. And we're taking a break. Sabbath, baby. But we're just here to create resources and help you guys pursue God's design of health, like we said. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode on the Holo Health Podcast. Remember,
you're a legend.